Hi, this is Brass Check, and I want to address a really important issue. It applies not only to the pandemic hysteria, but it also applies to everything in life. You always have two choices. You can watch TV and eat what they feed you, or you can do your own cooking. Look at real numbers, do real analysis, talk to real people who are not necessarily media figures, but are actually very experienced. We've got one professor, distinguished professor from Stanford University in epidemiology, saying this is all bullshit. We have another professor, esteemed, multi-decades on the job, professor of epidemiology, retired from Rockefeller University, says this is all bullshit. But still, there's a lot of news stuff, and it's really, really scary. And I want to go through it one piece at a time. So perhaps my assistant will put up a picture of an ambulance right now. One of the memes that we hear on TV is that the sound of New York City is pierced with a constant stream of sirens. It's become Death City. Well, I don't know if you've ever been to New York City. I know that newscasters saying that nonsense actually work and live there, but I grew up there, and thankfully don't live there now. But sirens are 24/7, 365 in New York City. Police sirens, fire engine sirens, and ambulance sirens. So, number one, there are always sirens going off at all hours of the day and night, 7 days a week in New York City. Okay? Number two, unless somebody's, flying in a blimp over the city and can point out which siren is coming from which vehicle, you've got to realize that not every siren you hear in New York City has to do with an ambulance. All right? So there's a little bit of fraud there on the part of the news media. The next bit of fraud is not every ambulance is a COVID-19 case. So what they've been trying to present is that there's this flood of sirens in New York City, and it's the wailing of the dead, and this is proof that COVID is killing everybody in New York. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but only because they're exaggerating it. When in reality, we've got plenty of sirens all the time. Not all of them are ambulances, and not all of the ambulances are COVID-19 cases. Most people walk in when they have a COVID case, unless they've let it go too far. And a lot of people, by the way, a lot of people catch this and die while they are institutionalized. Either they were already in the hospital for something else, or, and this is the big untold story, is they're in some kind of a nursing home or some kind of a facility, windowless, airless, no natural light, and they're already ill to begin with. And those kinds of facilities, unfortunately, when things like this crop up, a lot of people die, just like they die every year from the flu. So just taking this back, to say that the sound of ambulances is echoing through the canyons of an empty Gotham City, proof of the plague that is going to destroy humanity unless we all wear masks and stay home, is total bullshit. All right? So that siren thing, you're being lied to, you're being deceived deliberately. All right, let's look at the next hysterical theater piece put over by the likes of Chris Hayes and Rachel Madcow and Anderson Cooper, Vanderbilt, and all these know-nothing idiots. Okay, drone footage reveals they're burying people in mass graves. Oh my God. Okay, folks, east of the Bronx and north of Manhattan is an island called Hart Island. It has been in business for over 160 years. It's where people who don't have the money to be buried, quote, properly, are buried by the city of New York. When somebody dies, The body has to go somewhere. Okay? If you don't have the money to pick up the phone and call a expensive, because they ain't cheap. If maybe you've never buried anybody, prepare to whip out that MasterCard. If you don't have the finances for a funeral home to pick up the body, it's going to stay at the hospital, right? So let's look at logistics. You die, your body's in the hospital if you die in a hospital. Under normal circumstances, families with a little bit of money call up the funeral home and say, please pick up the body, and the funeral home comes and picks it up. What's happening now is we have destroyed the finances of millions of families across the United States. Not all of them have financial reserves. Many of them, in fact, we know before pre-pandemic that half of Americans were living on a thread. If a family in that financial condition has a family member die of any cause, they are not going to be able to hire the funeral home to pick up the body from the hospital. So the body will sit there. That includes if they've died from COVID-19, died with COVID-19, or died of a brain aneurysm, or 1 million zillion other ways that people die. So to show trailers in New York City and to say we're loading the dead on the trailers because we're running out of space and it's the end of the world. No, you destroyed the normal functioning of the economy. You destroyed the normal logistical operation that under normal circumstances moves bodies from hospitals to funeral homes. By the way, do a little research. Funeral homes will tell you, in the Northeast, we always get a little backed up this time of year because of the flu. So it's a busy time of year. A lot of families have been wiped out financially, and you're not allowed to have a funeral with more than 10 people. So a lot of families, they've just been destroyed financially. They've just lost a loved one. They can't have a funeral, a proper funeral, and a lot of them are choosing not even choosing. They're doing what the only thing they can do. And the city of New York, God bless it, has a service for people and families in this circumstance. They will take the bodies. They will bury them. They have always been buried in mass situation, mass graves. They've always used bulldozers. Now, some of these bodies, I understand, are being stored. So sort of a burial storage until families can get it together to pick the bodies up. Okay, but the main thing to understand is this says these mass graves that the Associated Press just discovered with their drone aerial footage, and oh my God, have been going on since the beginning of time. Yes, there are more bodies showing up at Hart Island than normal, and I've just explained why. And a lot of those people. And by the way, when they say it's, like 5 times more than normal, well, it was a pretty small number. So it doesn't take much to push it up to 5 times the number. And the photograph, by the way, that they show you, they say it's 40. I can count. I don't even see 20. But we're talking New York City, 15 million people. Do some math, guys. Do some math. 40. Well, anyway, I don't want to beat this dead horse anymore. But so what they did was they needed the drone to discover the secret island of death, and nobody's pointing out, well, you just shot a whole bunch of people in the head financially, and they can't afford to have their loved ones' bodies picked up, even if they died from cancer, even if they died from brain aneurysm, even if they died from 10 million other causes. So that's another meme we can demolish. Did I get them all? So we got the. Oh well, I kind of mixed 2 memes. I mixed the mass burial meme and the dead bodies are piling up at the hospital meme. Yes, they're piling up because a lot of families can't afford to claim them. You can't just just so everybody understands, you can't just roll down to the hospital and pick up your dead uncle's body. Okay, it's not permitted by law. The only people that can do that are funeral homes, and if you can't afford it, they're not going to do it. Right? And if they're not going to do it, the body's going to have to go into a trailer because a lot of people are dying in financial disarray thanks to pandemic hysteria.